Yeah, I got a 7 o'clock meeting.
Oh, tonight?
That lands me home around.
Weather one.
I haven't really figured that part out. We'll see what Lowville feels like around 11:30.
That's what Mr. Scan.
How's the big guy, Rochester, is he there at the meetings or anything?
Without Sean or? Oh, I haven't seen him
Quite a while.
since last summer, I think.
Oh, yeah, sure, you haven't seen Mike since last.
No, he's still doing a little bit of work. Everyone's still kind of remote, I think. So.
How's Sean?
I saw him on Friday.
See the boss?
Eddie and David.
I said, in my group, yeah, we're all partners, yeah, so
Okay.
different titles, I guess. But. Yeah, he's still busy.
Like that, yeah.
In a long time.
Yeah, been a long time for everybody.
Yeah.
3-year interruption.
David,
2-year
yeah.
interruption.
Somebody up front.
You guys are live.
Good, David.
Mike, you're live.
It's up to the chair.
Live.
Are we live?
Yeah, you're live.
Thank you. Okay. We have a quorum. I'll call the meeting in order, reading and approve of the minutes of the previous meeting. December 20.
So moved.
Thank you. Additions, corrections?
Yeah. As far as,
yours.
she's got my correction, yeah. I wasn't present at the meeting and I was given credit for a vote, which I shouldn't have, so. We've got it.
Okay.
Any further comments? Liking any all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Bills, communications, Mike.
Okay. So NICEAG bill, in the amount of $208.90. CNS company's invoice, we missed this in the last meeting, looking at you, Mark. This is $10,225.80. See that here. See the admin services, so this is not only the fourth quarter payment and the general operating expenses, but postage as well, but this is the CETA fee share. The amount for that is $21,227. The total invoice amount is $26,311. I can help provide a detailed summary of that, of what that fee share looks like. I know there was some discussion a couple months ago, you know, what's going into that calculation. To remind everybody, that does not include any of the fees received from the CMI and Eagle Drive. This is really coming from the hospital project in particular there. Right.
I just have a question about the $83.
Yeah.
Not us.
Yeah. That's my upcharge for walking up the street and put it in the box.
Oh, that makes sense.
From Menard Oil, this is kind of interest that came in. So 4264. Chamber dinner and dues,
What was the oil one?
101.
Yes, please.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes. So that's not a bill, that's actually it's
Payment.
income now. Was for the chamber, it was $140. And the chamber dues are $300. There was a pilot's payment adjustment here. I'll let Chris speak to this since, you know, her keen eye was able to dump it out. Chris?
Picking up where someone left off, it had been started. But the numbers were from last year, so when the payments went out, they went out with those numbers, and I had a reimbursement from Auburn. And Cuyahoga County, which I'm still waiting on county, but there it's in.
This says Auburn IDA. Is this for CCIDA or Auburn?
Well,
This is, right, because was that through?
but in there is one expected for Cuyahoga County for about $56,000.
wow.
So that's an adjustment. And that'll be reflected in the financials there. So more of a heads up, not anything for the board to act on here, just making sure the board is informed of that.
Yeah, just that money's coming back.
Okay. The last item here is just approval to pay Highlander for the agreement that was approved by this body at the 2 meetings ago now. Would like this improvement from committee here or the board rather, so we can get that process probably for tomorrow.
How much is it?
There is the agreed amount, which is, I believe, 47 with an additional 10 on top.
Yeah, the agreed amount was 47,500. That was for storage of materials, general management fees, there's a couple of items there, I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, that was 47,500, and then the $10,571.44 were for the plug valves that got delivered, the air release valves that got delivered, part of the pipe delivery as well too.
What are we lacking on materials? Just a pump?
Right now, as far as for materials that are going to be required for this next contracts will be the pump station, the equipment inside the pump station, the controls, the concrete manhole structures, the pump station structure, the lining for the pipe. And really, that's about it.
The lining for the pipe in the pump stations?
Yeah, the pipe, the bed lining, as far as like over and around the pipes and things like that.
So we've got almost everything
Got a lot of it.
on here.
Yeah, I'd make that motion, Mike.
Okay, great. That was it on bills and communications here.
We have motion and seconded, or seconded. Discussion. Comment. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
It's really good to get that Highlander thing taken care of before we get to the point of bidding that new one. We look terribly foolish if we did that and then ended up in a lawsuit with them over building the other one.
Right.
It's very good you got that done.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice
We're done.
we were able to come to terms. That was excellent. Reported to treasurer.
So there's going to be a couple of adjustments to this. It's just part of the year-end wrap-up activity that we're doing for it. But through year to date December, what you brought in fees was 182,000 and change total income. Being that of not just the project fees as well as the LGA fees was 271,000. Your total expense for the year was 175 and you netted 96 through the year. What was projected to happen through this year is all the grant income was in 2021, projecting that income was coming in this year. That's really what we're expecting for 2023 with the project actually getting off the ground. So I would say on my summary, it's hard to really sum up what your year-end results were budget to actual, because you had that wide disparity of, I'm going to get $1 million in grant income. That didn't happen. That being said, I think it was a good year for the IDA, and there's several things teed up. Project-wise being entertained for this year as well. But that being said, there's also the expense of the sewer line project, as well as investing in new land for an IDA park, which is yet to be determined at this point. So.
I move we approve. Thank you. Second. Motion made and seconded. Discussion on treasurer report.
Can I just ask, I think Paul might have asked this before, but with respect to the attorneys, and especially Justin, will any of that go against specific grants that we know, or specific projects, I should say?
So I'll peek in or pipe in
Yeah, I got your email. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we bill everything on the sewer line separately in a separate matter, so you can allocate that. So it's reimbursable.
So
Hopefully
that-
it is, yeah.
So that's a couple of things. So I've had a couple of inquiries from Mr. Marshall as well as Mr. Lantnishan as well. About getting together what has been our total investment that. Into the sewer line that, you know, we haven't gotten reimbursed for in any form. So far, our EDA grant does not reimburse for any soft costs, so.
Right.
Justin and Rick, we're not gonna get anything back from that. That being said, the Empire State grant we have, which is about $280,000, they do reimburse for soft costs. So we're going to look to try to get that recovered through that there. And thankfully, Mark's team has been helping us, you know, with making sure we're meeting the requirements of that contract as well. So far, not much activity because we haven't really started the project, but once it does, keeping really good track of the cost going into it is what will help the IDA recoup what's been invested in.
Right. Okay, we discussed that before.
Further discussion? All in favor? Oh.
Aye.
Thank you. Unfinished. We'll never guess. The sewer line.
On the sewer end of it, okay, closer, it looks like I think it's a 24. I think we're gonna end up with the Cuyahoga County easement agreement. Once we have that, then we can submit that over to EDA for their, I think it's the final thing that they need for, in order to allow us to go out and put the project up to bid.
You don't think when they get that, they're gonna come up with something else?
Well, there's always that chance. I have been talking back and forth with David Stevens from EDA. He can't rule that out, but he feels pretty confident that we have everything in line and ready to go. But he says that it's being reviewed by other people within his organization. Could it happen? He says yes, but hopefully not.
I've asked it 2 or 3 times that Doug Selby from the Water and Sewer is after me to have us confirm that we still have a completion date for September. That can't be right. Can it?
I think we're going to push that back a little bit. We're looking towards closer to say the October 1st timeframe, early October.
So I can tell him it's probably going to be in October instead of
Yes,
September.
that's a safe bet. Yes.
That's based,
Depending on the. When you supply them with this last thing, what they come up with.
Correct, that could push that back a little bit, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
so, because I apologize, I missed the last meeting, but we're waiting for an easement from the county.
Correct.
To then be able to submit to EDA so they can give us permission to bid.
Right, all the ducks in a row have to be there in order for them to cut the money loose to start the
Yeah.
project.
Under their program, you have to be able to certify title before they'll let you go out to bid. And there's about 400 feet going up Eagle Drive and then about 50 feet into our right of way heading east. That actually it's phase 1 really is in there, ironically enough, but. One manhole connecting to the pump station needs to be certified, and I think Steve, I don't know if you helped out or if it was primarily.
office.
It was a Chris Palermo, and those guys helped get that process along with Rick, so that
But
seems to be the last hurdle.
John, the county has already approved that lease thing. They just have to wait for a legislative meeting to.
Yeah, it's just the votes and a signature, yeah.
It's the 24th. Yeah. And then it's another month. For the bids.
By the time we
Come
get the
back.
bids back, yeah, like close to a month, yes.
You're circulating for about 4 weeks.
EDA likes to have a 30-day bid period.
Okay.
They have allowed a shortened period, down to 3 weeks. That's something we could ask for that if we want to try to save a week, but we could ask that. Because we do really have, as you mentioned earlier, we do have a lot of the pieces of the puzzle already. There's not a lot of, there's 5,400 feet round numbers. You guys have that pipe product here already, so it's safe to contract for the type of pricing, but typically they like 30 days.
So March 1st, that could be a pretty good date.
Yes.
All right, once we get the EDA approval. Do we just get the paperwork out, or do we have to meet again?
I think we're.
No, you've already authorized.
Authorized the admission and.
Yeah, you've already authorized him to go out to bid.
Then what are the what are the long? What are gonna be the long poles in the town? What's gonna hold the project up? We know the NICEAG.
That's a major thing.
So is there any way
They-
we could start negotiating that?
They won't, my understanding, they won't deal with anybody, only the contractor.
And we've done the initial electric service order. But they won't, the planning of it, the planners won't start until there's a known contract in place. They don't wanna, what do they call it? They don't make sure there's commitment there before they're gonna start their planning end of it. We've done this, we've given them the loads, all that, they won't start anything else until there's a contract with a contractor. And then they'll, but it's a contractor's responsibility to make sure that gets all coordinated with that.
Is there any way we can put a little pressure on them?
And I said. I've never been able to. I'm not sure that they can be, but I don't know where.
I was thinking maybe Steve.
Steve, do you?
Yeah, I'll just call up my contacts. Appreciate it.
We're not telling you they're good ideas, we're just telling you their ideas. But other than NICEAG and getting the pump and the electronics, what are the other long?
The pumps would be the next one, but the pumps right now, they were at one point in time 15 to 16 weeks out. That time has dropped down to 12 weeks round numbers.
So that shouldn't be an issue.
That shouldn't be an issue. Those are really the electrical service, and also to the generator. The generator, that's been fluctuating a little bit from 3 to 6 months. Time frame as well too. The generator's a big ticket, and a long lead item.
All right. So it's probably pretty critical for us to monitor those three.
Yes, it is very much so. That's one of the things too that we would ask for the contractor, say at the kickoff, we need to get the submittals in as quickly as possible, so you get those approved to get them ordered. Very important.
We have all the specs on the pump.
We do. And the generator and the electric service order information, all that's there. Just gotta get it started.
So once we get the bids, we could give that paperwork immediately to them and they could drive that immediately.
Yes. That's something to push that.
Is getting the grant people to let us go to bid.
Mhm.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, that's what's in front of us, but then right behind that,
Yes, then we can start working on the things that are workable.
we can have Mike call them daily.
Or speed down.
Yeah, speed dial, there you go. All right, thank you.
Anything further? Seat updates.
Okay, part of what I was gonna provide in this section is already added to new business, so I'll save it for them to add to that discussion. The one thing I did want to bring up to the group here, aside from the ongoing solar projects that are still on the back burner, and Justin and I have talked a couple times about reaching back out to them to see, when are you gonna get moving on this, is I've been contacted about another energy project, but this one is for wind. Actually, so I have a meeting about that tomorrow. If that's actual feasible project. I'd be happy to share that with the group, in the next month or so here as available. What has been very interesting in some of the discussions around that project is the accountant who brought it to my attention and said, as a public entity, that there would be some wiggle room for investment tax credit that would actually come back to the IDA in the form of cash. So I haven't seen that fully laid out by him, but he's the person who brought it to me. He's been in the energy sector for 20+ years, so he knows it much better than I. So I just want to raise that up of, it might be some good news that I could use. Whether or not that's a pipe dream, I don't know.
The solar project you mentioned, is that the one in Conquest or?
No, I was contacted though by the Cato Meridian superintendent who had reached out about that project in particular. And I'll be sitting down with him and Maureen next week to discuss. They're looking to set those pilots up with the municipalities rather than the IDA. I'm not sure.
I think they're coming to the IDA. The school seems to be a little confused about it, I think, but
The discussion's been direct with the superintendent as I've been told.
I heard that the council to, I think Nextera they met with the one school district, and then all three showed up. And I think the discussion's been going through your UTEP and using an IDA pilot. I
So you think it will go through us, not through the individual?
don't know why they would want 9 pilots when they can just do one.
I'm not sure. That's how it was presented to me.
Yeah, so, all right, if that's coming from the school, maybe that's the way they'd like to see it, but. And
That's fine.
we can talk further before you go into that, but we can loop in Nextera and their council too. Yeah,
Right.
Just, that's really.
It would
Who's
be
gonna
nice,
try that, yeah.
that's such a big project, it would be nice if we could have some idea how it's going to go about.
Right, as far as I understood it, it's Kevin McCullough represents Nextera. For
Berkeley
the,
Damon.
yeah, he's great to work with. He called me, just gave me a heads up that he had a meeting with the school districts and they kind of were just catching up and getting to know each other. And I think all 3 came. And I think one of the heads of Nextera, the Northeast guy or something, came along and he wanted to talk a little bit more about the UTEP and where the IDA was per megawatt and things like that. And I said that I needed to sit with you,
And
kind of
that,
talk internally first.
right, there's been a range that we've been sharing to, prospective IDA clients right now. But I've always left it open-ended of this is at the discretion of the board.
Right, yeah,
But
and
we
the
are-
utility scale ones are kind of a different animal altogether anyway, so. We can circle up before you have that, and I can
Okay.
perhaps have a call with their attorney, just to make sure we're on the same page, generally speaking.
Sure.
And if they apply to you, then you're just gonna distribute to the schools.
Right.
So.
Understood. All right, so that's on the business end of things. As it relates to another aspect I wanted to talk about is the Auburn IDA had contracted with a third-party marketing firm to get their website updated and to do more outreach over the last year or so here. I wanted to inquire to this board here is if there was any appetite for a similar approach, getting the website updated and having a third-party firm trying to do some additional outreach on top of what CETA is able to provide here. So
How successful has it been?
They went for a very targeted place-based branding to start off there. And while the Auburn IDA has since felt, we would really like to change direction of where we're going. They've already invested quite a chunk of money into it. And what I had suggested is if this body is interested in it, is perhaps jointly paying that firm to perform some of those services. I can't tell you exactly what it is offhand. They paid a little less than 60,000 for all those services there. I know they don't have a full appetite to re-engage them at that amount, but and if you felt it might be something worthy investing in to put a little money into that pot, can reach back out to them to set something up. And I want to first gauge the interest of this body. Is that something you would entertain?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's been a long time since we've updated our website.
Yeah, to be truthful, I can't remember the last time I looked at it.
Oh, you were here.
It's not
Yeah.
Do they have a menu or a proposal or like a scope of services that they could throw at you? Like a à la carte type thing or?
I'm gonna be inquiring to them on that. I wanted to first, run it by this body, otherwise I didn't want to ask them to, put together a proposal on that. The Auburn idea, one of the things that I like about our current website is you want something, it's right there. You don't have to look around for it. That said, it's a little bland, so there's no, what do you do around here? If I'm a company looking to, set up shop and I might have 100 employees coming here, what's available here? The Auburn IDA invested heavily into that. They're trying to step away from it to reach more out to the people they really want to be talking to, which are those large employers, but having some more of that information on the back end helps sell Cuba County at large. Not just available sites, but you're gonna have employees here. What can they do? Is this actually somewhere they want to live and work?
Can we just get a proposal and have them come in and present it to us?
Certainly inquire.
Yeah, and we should probably individually review the current site. And see what we feel is lacking.
Wow.
The state looks for certain things for ease of use for finding minutes, finding your annual audit and.
But they're not one of the customers.
Right, they don't have their marketing hat on when they think you kind of build the framework, so something like that to help do the marketing side. Probably makes sense, I'd say.
I tried to get on it one time and asked for a number code. You aware of that?
No. Not at all. Every time, there was, maybe a month or so ago, it had gone down briefly, but it was repaired, somewhat quick.
I'll try it again.
Must have been just when
It was
you were
wild.
taking a look at, it was down for a day or so.
Well, yeah, before number it all.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually though, that might be a better approach for us to look at our site. Look at the Auburn one and then see what we want before we just randomly engage them.
Well, no, completely agree. The Auburn site, members of that board, while they were pleased with a lot of it, they are feeling some adjustments need to be made. And what they were looking at as a pretty good example is the Mohawk Valley IDA
Mohawk
site.
Valley.
Said it was very clean, easy to get through, selling everything you want to sell.
So should we look at that one?
It's my suggestion. Take a look at the Auburn one as well, to get an understanding of what that firm has put together. Those are the large seat of things there, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Events. ABO training. I know Chris was taking a look through our files and Janine, who was on call, was asking about ABO training as well, since a couple of our members are also on water and sewer. If you have not done this, please let us know. We'll get you signed up. Upcoming ones are on January 25th, February 10th, and February 22nd.
Didn't we turn in the certificate for that?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, because I just started in September, so anything that you may have sent in the past, I don't have access to or cannot find. So if you still have those on your files or in your emails, if you could forward them, that'd be great.
Because I think we just,
Well, I remember when I first started at the first board meeting, Taylor had said that everybody had already taken it, but I can't locate them. So I need those. If you have them.
That'd be next Wednesday.
25th is this one coming up. So it's noted there on the upcoming events.
Water and sewer line at the Union Park, we've covered that, right?
Yeah, well, this is another area as part of the CETA update, and I'll let Maureen better speak to this, since she's been really helping facilitate the discussions we've had with both the city of Auburn and the surrounding towns. And the phone calls we've gotten from CMI and Duncan rate related to the increase in water rates. So again, Maureen's been helping spearhead those discussions. I'll pass it off to her.
So a few years ago, the city worked with the surrounding towns to come up with a sort of unified sewer rate. And it's becoming an issue on the water side of things because due to just old contracts and different contracts and the rates that different towns have are kind of out of whack. And so in order to kind of streamline everything, get everything sort of cleaned up as far as updated contracts and realistic rates. We're having these meetings to get all the towns and the city together to kind of plan collaboratively about doing a study to figure out how different rates would impact different towns and things like that. And so those, we've had 2 meetings so far, and we have a third one planned coming up. And I think where we left it at the last meeting was were we going to work on I think the corporate counsel for the city of Auburn was going to start drafting kind of a new contract. And we're looking into what the proposal would be as far as what the scope of work would be for doing a water rate study.
And that's part of the longer term solving those issues, what the perspective Marina and I have been taking, speaking on behalf of, IDA Park clients, is that this is a threat to their business, and how can we come up with a short-term solution right now, especially for CMI related to their expansion and how it's putting that at risk in addition to their existing operations. The sense I got from the meeting is the town of Aurelius was kind of unwilling to move on where they are rate wise. They said that's just the way it's going to be. But I had pressed them a couple of times of, would you be willing to reconsider if we find some sort of negotiable path to come up with a short-term solution? We don't want to put this expansion project at risk here. And explain to them that their rates went up $90,000 in 1 month. That's a significant increase. So I think we're going to reach back out to the folks at CMI in particular to see if they have some thoughts of reapproaching the town. I also did want to ask you, Justin, as part of the Fast New York program, would there be any sort of wiggle room within that program to assist us in potentially getting some infrastructure out that way? Part of what Carl had proposed at the meeting is getting a line out there, and
So the one that's supposed to go behind Bosse's, is that? the other stuff?
Yeah,
I would put in, you're farther along than anybody,
Okay.
in terms of, the park's done, right, almost. So your readiness, I think that would be a good strategy. Are the town's rates generally driven by what the city's charging for
Yeah.
treatment and for water supply?
yes,
And that's where the rubber's gonna hit the road. It's that
And it's
negotiation.
partly by contract. The water rates are different between different towns. And
Okay.
it's a little bit not to our interest to get into this because we have the lowest rate.
Mhm.
Frankly speaking, for the water authority,
I would use the water authority to buy the water now and send it out at a different rate if we can.
but speaking for the water authority, it's not in our interest to renegotiate a contract with the city.
Were you getting
We're-
better rates than
We're
the
getting a
town?
better deal than
yes,
you're gonna negotiate. The city's got a monopoly. So when you bring all the customers together and you wanna negotiate,
No, yeah, they're not gonna.
they got
respond to
all
that
the
very
power,
well.
you've got none.
Yeah.
So it's a very poor strategy to go.
If we're able to
into a session.
deliver under your contract, it'd CMI be better off.
That's a whole nother discussion we should have in private.
Okay.
Right now, the Aurelius line is not sufficient to support the water flow they need
I heard it's porous.
and
If we're,
fire
if
protection.
we're-
So the line the water authority is looking at is for expansion.
Okay.
if we're going to do this in an executive session, we ought to.
Yeah,
If you think we should,
I
don't
don't
know.
know, we're gonna talk about contracts, I think,
Yeah.
and strategy.
That's enough of a motion to go in, both of them.
Yeah. So, well, and then the other thing, we've got a couple other contracts things and some land. So I'd make the motion to move into that.
Second.
Okay, well, before we do that, we're done with all the
Other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have something else to bring up on the purchase of land. And let me do it very briefly. I've been talking to the supervisor for Springport on this 100 and some acres. Steve, if you wait, is that something, is that too far away?
What's that?
That land in Springport?
The land in Springport too far
The
away.
one on the map, the one on the map, you have to. or
Oh,
just have
what
to?
about it?
For micro. Well,
From Micron.
Oh, for Micron.
no,
But for.
for us to invest in. I've talked with him and he's working with the property owner. Because I come up with scatterbrain ideas, I thought we could conceivably get an option on that land, for maybe 5 years, and he thinks that that's possible. And that would let us have control of it for 5 years to see if we can do any development down there. And he said that Springport would